Why should we practice mantra yoga, and what are the benefits of this practice?
Om Namaste. Mantra yoga is practiced to achieve the same goals as other types of yoga. Raja Yoga, the royal path, Kundalini Yoga, energy awakening, Bhakti Yoga, devotions path, Jnana Yoga, wisdom's yoga, Nada Yoga, sounds yoga, Shachakra Yoga, chakra exploration. The goal of all these yogas is to attain samadhi, unity with God, liberation, moksha. In addition to this, there are also other, so to speak, less important goals, such as dharma, righteousness, accumulation of merit, following the right path, artha, material prosperity, benefit, and kama, pleasure and joy in life, improving the quality of life and enhancing one's well-being. These are secondary goals, and the main goal of mantra yoga is the attainment of liberation. That is, if you are a sadhu, you practice mantra yoga in order to realize your life's goals. But if you are a layperson, you can recite mantras to gain benefit, wealth, and an improved quality of life. In general, a mantra can be likened to something very precious. You shouldn't treat a mantra as just some set of sounds like, I'll try it, maybe it'll work. First and foremost, a mantra is like a diamond. It is like a magical jewel that fulfills wishes. A mantra is something sacred. It is holy. It is the secret name of God or the gods, who are in fact one supreme God. A mantra is the sound body of the deity, and it should be treated with great reverence. To receive a mantra and use it correctly is the greatest fortune. And when you receive a mantra from your spiritual teacher, it is a lifelong process. The theory itself, the philosophy, metaphysics, and theology of mantra yoga are very deep, very, very complex. I have been studying it my whole life, and I can't say that I have learned even a little bit of it. It is infinite. It is believed that only Shiva fully knows the philosophy, metaphysics, and theology of mantra yoga in their entirety. Everyone else knows only a little, only partially. But that doesn't mean we can't practice mantra. Practicing mantra is not difficult, but understanding its depth is hard. So, mantra yoga is connected with a section of the teaching called Pratikapasana. Pratikapasana is the worship of the form of a deity in order to attain the same form of the deity in the future. That is, through mantra, we worship the deity. In order to become a deity oneself and attain liberation, called Mayarupa Samadhi, liberation through the illusory bodies of the deity, or Sarupya Mukti. Pratikapasana consists of two words. Pratika means the symbol of the deity in form, and Upasana means worship. Pratikapasana consists of three sections. The first is meditation on the visual image of the deity. Here, there is no mantra. We simply concentrate on the appearance of the deity, on its attributes, on the stories associated with it, on the parts of its body, and we become accustomed to contemplating the image of the deity. The second part is called Nama-upasana. This is meditation on the sound of the name of God. And this is where mantra yoga comes into play. And the third part, Pratikapasana, is called Ahamgraha Upasana. This is meditation on one's higher self as being one with the sound and visualized body of the deity. In other words, we first focus on the deity into which we are initiated by the spiritual teacher. This can be a single chosen deity, or it can be an entire pantheon of deities. Then we incorporate mantra yoga, beginning to recite the mantra of this deity. It's as if we call it by name, establishing a telepathic mental contact with it, so that it descends, appears in response to our call, so that it enters our subtle body, so that we feel unity with the deity, and so that we ourselves begin to transform into this deity. And in the third phase, we meditate on emptiness, on the non-dual consciousness of I, which is the essence of both the mantra and the very image of the deity itself. At this point, all mantras and visualizations cease, and we immerse ourselves in the non-dual contemplation of the Absolute, because this is the true essence of the deity and the true essence of any mantra. So when we recite a mantra, it is like mining for jewels, for something very precious, very rare, very valuable. It's as if we had a little shovel and we were digging for gold, or we were mining for gems. And each piece of gold, each gem is so valuable that it could provide for us for a lifetime, so that we would never need to work again. That is how valuable, how precious a mantra is. But not every mantra works. For a mantra to be effective, to bring benefit and truly become a jewel, it must be received from a spiritual teacher through diksha, an initiation. In other words, there is no yoga without a mantra. And without diksha, without initiation, it is impossible to receive a mantra. That is the belief. And diksha is impossible without a guru, a spiritual teacher. And it is very important to clearly understand this process as it is given in the tantras. Without a mantra, yoga is impossible. Without diksha, initiation, a mantra is impossible. And without a guru, diksha is impossible. But a guru will not appear until a disciple appears. In other words, without a disciple, there can be no guru. This means that we must acquire the qualities, attributes, and mindset of a disciple, prepare ourselves, attune ourselves in order to attract the attention of the guru, establish a connection with him, and be ready for initiation. That is the chain. And the mindset of a disciple will not arise without our passionate, great, strong, irresistible, unyielding intention to attain freedom, happiness, and liberation. In other words, we will not become a disciple without strong motivation, so that we become a disciple, begin to work on ourselves in some way, and develop qualities. We must desire this, meaning we must develop the motivation to attain liberation. This is the kind of chain that is formed. And where does such motivation come from? It comes from reflecting on the four awarenesses, for example, on the impermanence of the world, on the fact that we, like slaves to the law of karma, are subject to the law of karma, on the sufferings of samsara, and on the uniqueness of our human birth. That's the chain. We reflect on this, and we develop a passionate desire to attain liberation. Such a passionate desire to attain liberation leads us to want to become a disciple in order to receive this very mantra, because there is no other way to obtain it. If we just read it on the internet, or pick it up somewhere, or overhear it, it won't work. It can even cause problems. This is stated in the sacred texts. Shiva himself says this in the Kularnava Tantra, in the Chandrajnana Agama, and others as well. So we strive to become a disciple, and when we strive to become a disciple, we find a spiritual teacher, or the spiritual teacher finds us. The spiritual teacher gives us, as disciples, initiation. During initiation, he whispers mantras into the ear. And it is very important that these are authoritative mantras within the spiritual tradition of succession. So we have received initiation. After that, we must practice mantra yoga. Mantra yoga is the yoga of union with God through mantra, through sound vibration. And the goal of mantra yoga is samadhi. In Raja Yoga, the goal of Raja Yoga is Raja Yoga Samadhi. In Kundalini Yoga, the goal of this yoga is Kundalini Yoga Samadhi. When the energy rises through the Sushumna and enters the Sahasrara, the yogi enters the light with the cessation of breath. In Mantra Yoga, there is also its own Samadhi, but this is a special kind of Samadhi, different from that in Raja Yoga or Kundalini Yoga. This is Bhava Samadhi. Bhava Samadhi means samadhi through absorption in the sensation of energy, the bhava of the deity. So when we have meditated on impermanence, the law of karma, the preciousness of human birth and the uniqueness of human life, on its meaning, on why we live, and we have wished to attain the highest freedom in God, liberation, and enlightenment, we have wished to become a disciple of some spiritual teacher and have begun to prepare ourselves. Then we found a spiritual teacher who is ready to pass on to us these treasures of wisdom. We went through Diksha, initiation, took certain vows and commitments, because without discipline, vows, and commitments, no yoga is possible. And then we began to practice mantra yoga. And what does the Kularnava Tantra, chapter 15, say about this in the description of Purascharana? There is no offerings higher than the sacrifice of japa, and there is no other like it in the world. Therefore, through japa, one should attain law, benefit, love, and liberation. That is, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Here Shiva says that mantra is a sacrifice, and there is no sacrifice higher than this one. And it is through impeccability in mantra that perfection, siddhis, come, but negligence or carelessness in mantra will not bring any good result. Good mantra yoga brings both pleasure and liberation, the fulfillment of desires, and the observance of vows in this life. Therefore, one should practice yoga that includes mantra, japa, and contemplation. All shortcomings. That which arises from karma is destroyed through japa. This is what the Shilas assert. In other words, mantra erases all the flaws of our karma, all negative character traits, removes all obstacles, all planetary influences, and grants us the sweet fruit of freedom. And if someone wants to escape the cycle of births, which is filled with suffering, if someone seeks perfection for themselves, then they must practice mantra yoga. And mantra yoga is not just the recitation of a mantra, it is the recitation of a mantra according to the instructions given by the guru. That is, the guru gives the disciple a visualization of the deity, describes the nyasas, and explains how and how many times to recite the mantra. In general, there is a concept called Purascharana. Purascharana is a complex type of practice. It is the pinnacle of mantra yoga. You shouldn't start it right away, but eventually you will reach the point where you can perform Purascharana. Purascharana means a practice performed in retreat as an ascetic discipline according to special rules. There, puja is performed 3 times a day, along with japa, tarpana, offering water to the deity, homa, offering oil into the fire while reciting the mantra, and serving food to the Brahmins or sadhus. And this is what is called Purascharana. If any of these components are missing, it is possible to compensate by reciting the mantra more times. But the mantra must be recited that many more times, depending on how many of these components are missing. Thus, mantra yoga is what the disciple receives as diksha from their spiritual teacher. It is like the sprout of a magical tree or a magical flower. The spiritual teacher passes this sprout on to the disciple. If the disciple is ready, they accept the mantra and take on the commitments associated with the mantra. The commitments as a disciple and begins to work with the mantra. He begins to recite it every day on prayer beads, and he starts to visualize the deity, meditate on it, and worship it. And this is similar to how you would take this sprout and water it, and then this sprout begins to give new flowers, new shoots, and starts to grow into a beautiful bush or a wonderful tree, which in the future will provide spiritual experiences up to the attainment of liberation. So what else does the Kularnava Tantra tell us? A mantra received from a guru becomes effective when given by a spiritual teacher who has mastered mantras. Or if, thanks to repetition, performed in past lives, if you have such inclinations, then the mantra also grants perfection. A mantra should come through the lineage of teachers and after initiation. Only then will it have power. Then such a mantra, received correctly and according to the prescribed rules, grants success. There are various methods of receiving and reciting a mantra. They can be extraordinarily deep and complex, and a disciple should study them with their spiritual teacher. It is said that there are many different mantras, but the only mantra obtained through the compassion of the Guru grants all perfections. If a mantra was accidentally seen or secretly glimpsed, if written on a sheet and somehow memorized, then its recitation will only bring obstacles. But those who recite mantras seen in a book incur a sin equal to killing a Brahmin, bringing illness and suffering. But if it is received properly, as prescribed, then it brings blessings. A fool who recites a mantra without performing nyasa, such a person is pursued by obstacles like tigers, cubs, and goats. So there are many subtleties regarding mantras. For example, to perform certain mantras, it is necessary to do nyasa on one's own body. That is, nyasa deifies the fingers and various parts of the body. We must prepare ourselves, and this preparation is called nyasa. If we do not do this preparation, then the mantra will also be of no benefit. Because in order to recite a mantra, we ourselves must become like Shiva. It is said, Shivam Bhutva Shivam Yajet. Only Shiva can worship Shiva, and we meditate in a special way before the mantra in order to prepare ourselves for reciting the mantra. With regard to other mantras, it is said that one should also recite the Kavacha, especially for Shakti mantras. If a person recites a mantra but does not recite the Kavacha, he attracts a certain power to himself. But if he is not protected from this power will, as it were, that is, not every mantra is beneficial if it is not received with explanations from a spiritual teacher. This does not apply to well-known mantras that can be recited without initiation from a spiritual teacher. The mantra Om Namah Shivaya. These mantras can be recited even without initiation. It is believed that the mantra Om Namah Shivaya is so auspicious that without initiation from a spiritual teacher, a person can simply hear it and then recite it themselves. But this does not apply to deep tantric mantras. What else is said? Sitting in a stable posture, one should perform japa and then offer water to the goddess. Loud japa is the worst, quiet japa is average, and mental japa is the best. These three types of japa to the goddess are known. Pronouncing the mantra too briefly causes illness. Pronouncing it too slowly and drawn out leads to the depletion of ascetic fervor, tapas. Mantras that are pronounced indistinctly are never effective. Whoever mentally recalls a hymn or recites a mantra aloud, in both cases the result will be like water from a broken vessel, O goddess. A mantra defiled by various impurities is never effective. A mantra free from impurities brings all perfections. Thus, through mantra yoga, this extraordinarily profound art, we gradually move toward perfection. And what is this perfection? To attain a mind like that of a deity, and not different from the deity, and the mind of the deity is always enlightened, liberated, and in samadhi. Then to attain energy and speech like that of a deity, in the form of mantra. And to attain a body like that of a deity, the same kind of body, radiant, shining, endowed with siddhis and divine attributes. This is the profound goal of mantra yoga. When you receive a mantra, you should understand that this is a very important turning point in your life. It's as if you have made a turn in the direction you will be moving, perhaps for the next millions of years, because a mantra leads us to infinity, to eternal life. It comes from the realm where immortal gods dwell, and for the gods 1,000,000 years is not that much. And perhaps, after receiving the transmission, the initiation from a Diksha Guru, a spiritual teacher, after receiving a mantra from him, you will be working with the deity's sound body, with this mantra for the next 1,000,000 years. Because the path to realization, the path to the gods, is extraordinarily long, lengthy, and lofty, no matter what anyone says about it. And from this perspective, 1,000,000 years is like the snap of a finger, considering that the gods, the great gods, are essentially eternal. For them, billions, quintillions of years are nothing. This is an art that we will be mastering throughout this entire life and in all our future lives as well. We will be delving into the mystery of the mantra, studying the nuances of its practice, applying nyasa to our own bodies. We will study the syllables, intonations, and pronunciations. We will come to understand the 8 colors in the application of the mantra. We will recite the mantra into the bonfire together with the pouring of oil. We will chant various hymns inviting the deities, practicing prolonged concentration and visualizing the deity before us. And most importantly, we will recognize the nature of the mind, which teaches that the mantra, the self, and the deity are one Brahman, a single non-dual consciousness. And in this process, we will give birth to the inner child of awareness in the form of a divine illusory body within ourselves. Just as the Taoists speak of creating the immortal embryo on the level of energy. We create the immortal illusory child within ourselves in the form of the deity. And we will nurture it, infuse it with the power of mantra, meditation, concentration, and ritual practice until it is fully born and transformed. When this child in the form of the deity is born within us, our soul will merge with it, with this deity, and our soul will become one. And then we will be human in form, but in essence we will be divine. And when the soul leaves the body, it will rise in the guise of a deity. She will attain the liberation called Sarupya Mukti. So this is briefly why we read the mantra and what is mantra yoga. Om Namaste.